pants had the magic of keeping us together. They saw us through times of love and those moments where you feel your life just lift up and take off.
Screening, I'll be sitting next to a print person.
Yeah.
And they'll go, I tried to write once for the newspaper, do a movie review. I sat at my screen for 8 hours and I got a paragraph. And they go, well, I tried to talk in front of a camera and it just doesn't work. And you say, you're being quick on your feet. So when we see something on the screen, or it's very funny, or it's a great moment or great line, it never even occurs to me that might have taken several months.
Right. You know, they say that writers are people where the clever comeback comes to you 6 hours later. And I think that's true. You know, a writer is a person who, you think of it when you're by yourself at midnight and talking to no one. Yeah. But you get to put it in your book.
But is it ever done when you turn it in? Or are you just like, wait, I just thought of something? Or, you know what I mean? Is that possible?
That does happen. I'm finishing a manuscript now and I got the copy edit back. So it's really kind of set. And I should not be monkeying with it at this point.
Okay.
But I just thought of this idea and this line. I thought, can I just sneak that in? Will anyone notice? It's hard to call something done.
And then I wouldn't want to be in your shoes. I mean, granted, you're very successful here. They made a movie out of your book, 2 movies out of your book here, but it'd be like, because you always hear the book is better, or they ruined my book or so forth, because you're kind of giving up your baby to somebody to do what. Honestly, is it right? Am I correct here? Whatever they want with it?
Yeah, pretty much. I think you do have to cede control, particularly if you're not a known writer when it gets started. Yeah. I mean, it's a great opportunity, and that's kind of the first thing. Like, I think as a writer, and particularly a writer starting out, like, you don't have a lot of entitlement. You know, you just feel like if somebody wants to look at your book, read your book, publish your book, like, just take what you can get and be happy. So I think, you know, there is some feeling of, you know, you do have to cede control, you have to let it go, you just have to be hopeful that it'll come out well. In my case, I feel like I've been very, very lucky. But sometimes, I mean, I know writers have gone through terrible torment.
I was on a set with a writer once. He goes, oh, I'm the writer. I said, oh, how do you, and he's like, actually, it's just the name. He goes, what they've done with it from where it's out, nothing's the same. You know, so you are very blessed. You know?
I mean, definitely they're going to make changes, and I'm prepared for that. They need to. A book and a movie are really different things. And I think the more you're able to separate them, particularly as the writer, and say, the book and the movie are different things, I think that's kind of the...
And then the sequel, they took from a couple different books. So it's almost like, three. It's like, well, what's wrong with the rest of the stuff I wrote? You know, I'd be thinking that. That's the other, like, instead of like, oh, wow, it's going to be a movie. You know, I'm going to ask you, but I'm going to talk about characters, though, because honestly, the characters don't work. You got nothing happening here.
That's true.
So, and it's almost like, is this a case of Sex and the City where every girl thinks that there's one of those characters? Is that what you've tapped into here?
I don't know if that was my intent.
Right.
But I do think that does happen. I think if you have 4 characters, somebody's going to represent a mirror for you. Is there some character is going to have some quality that you're going to tap into, that you're going to think, you know, I really like to play soccer, and I tend to have these incredible crushes on boys, or whatever. You know, But I think there's also a case when you're writing something that involves 4 characters, and these are characters who are really equally weighted. I was committed to not having any one character get far out in front of the others. You know, to really have them be 4 equal characters. And in some ways, I think they tend to represent in some ways one whole unit, one whole personality. So I think you can even see them as 4 parts of one personality, or as 4 very separate people. You can kind of look at them either way.
Now, okay, would there be is this even a possible situation where they say that we need another book?
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, now this has been a well-established franchise.
Yeah.
You've got America Ferrera in here. You got Alexis in your mind. Could those personalities blend into your, if you were to write one like right now?
Well, you know what, that's actually an interesting thing. I was talking about this. I wrote the 4th of these 4 books, the one that this movie is primarily based on. I wrote it after the first movie came out, and even not very long after the first movie came out. So I had spent time with these young women. I'd seen the movie a number of times. I really loved it. It's easy if you don't love something because it's not going to penetrate, you're not going to internalize it. But this I really did. So I think I did internalize it. And their performances, I internalized. I really loved them. I felt like they extended these characters into new places that I hadn't necessarily thought of, which is a lovely thing. Yeah. So I started the 4th book and I thought, whose world am I operating in? Am I back in mine, or am I in this other? And they're not competitive, but they're different. Yeah. And I felt like I was unsure about that as I sat down to write. And, you know, was Carmen going to be America? Or was I going to hear her voice? You know, and she makes a hell of a good Carmen, so that's not a bad thing. But I ended up, as I began writing, as I got deeper into the book, I went back to my old imagined world. I went back to that, which I think is natural. I'd spent 3 books there, many years, thinking about them, writing. So I ended up sort of separating them again. But it was an interesting process.
Yeah. Any chance the girls would meet a film critic that's bald and has a goatee in their next film?
It could happen.
Could happen.
You never
Thank
know.
Absolute pleasure.